All right, guys, it's time to discuss the other big lift that any serious training athlete that wants to get big and strong needs to implement into their program. And as you can probably tell, it's the deadlift. And we're going to discuss some of the variations of the deadlift, but also detail what needs to be going on when you deadlift, right? So what's going through your head, what's going on physically in your setup, and all those good things. So two variations that I would highly recommend you guys use both of are the standard deadlift and the sumo deadlift. Okay, so we'll quickly discuss the difference there if you don't already know, and let's get right to it. So typically CrossFitters are going to be using a standard deadlift, and all that really means is when I approach the bar, my feet are underneath my hip. Okay, right there, straight up, straight down, my legs are columns. That's the way I like to approach this, and it creates a very straight, efficient line for driving force to pick this bar up. Okay? So when I set myself up, shins right up against the barbell, maybe a little bit of a gap, and that's going to depend on each individual. So this is again just a general how to deadlift, how to sumo deadlift. When we start to talk about the more specific things, that'll give us a couple more pounds on our deadlift and make it more efficient. But for right now, let's just keep it very general. So stance underneath hips, walk up to the barbell. As you go down to set yourself in your grip, you want to make sure that everything's tight and organized to begin with. So boom, pull the shoulders back. As you go down, you're loading your stomach nice and tight. And then we've got an alternating grip. Whenever you go max effort, you need to have this alternating grip so that the bar actually spins and rotates into the other hand. If we go here, the bar is going to want to roll out of those fingers, and it's going to make it feel like you can't pick that up. Okay? Your body's not going to let you pick anything up that you can't grab. So you want to make sure you have a strong grip. Strong hand usually goes under, and less dominant hand goes over. Okay? From here, I know you can't see this, but I'm arching my back, chest up, back flat, and then my weight is in my heels. As I stand, it starts slow, and then boom, power through to close that window, right? On the way back down, butt goes back, slide it down the legs, and finish exactly the way you started. Okay? Now, I'd mentioned close the window, right? Whenever we deadlift, or whenever we lift in general, there's a time frame in which you get to accomplish that lift. If you've seen anybody deadlift an extreme amount for them, and they've just cranked on it, and it turns into like an 8-second rep, you start to see the hydraulic legs where you're just bouncing up, and it starts to get a little bit ugly, right? That's that time frame coming to a close very quickly, okay? They're still making progress, but it's just barely. If you've ever seen somebody go too slow, they can get it all the way up here, and then all of a sudden, it's just like they've hit a wall, they've got nothing left, and they missed the lift. Okay? There's some other factors that go into that as well, but usually it's just because they're not moving that weight fast enough. Your body only gets a certain amount of time to get work done. So we want to start to think in aspects of, even if it's heavy, we're trying to move it as fast as possible. Now that does not mean be a jackass and just, rip it up off the floor, sloppy as hell, and injure yourself. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is tighten up, get locked in, and then do work, throw that thing up there, and go to town. Cool? So that's the standard deadlift. The sumo deadlift, as you can probably tell by the name, takes a sumo stance, which is just going to be a wide stance. For me, my sumo stance is just a little bit wider than my box squat, just slightly. Okay? Just because I don't have to go as deep into in an actual squat. So for each individual, it's going to differ. This goes again into dimensions and mobility. Right? If you're a tight person, you're going to have a tough time driving the knees out where you need to be in order to, drive that sumo lift straight up off the floor. What we don't want to see, if I were to go wider, what we don't want to see is the knees not being able to kind of push out over the ankles. Okay? So this is too wide for me, and it's just because I have not developed the flexibility yet in my groin. I would love to go wider, but it's just not going to happen right now until I develop that flexibility. So when I get set, wide stance, toes are slightly pointed out, not much though. If we get too crazy with this, we can't create torque in the glutes. So we want to make sure we're slightly angled, okay? Slightly angled. As I go down and pick up this bar, again, I'm still staying tight, and I'm driving my knees open and staying very tight and active as I go down to take the grip. Now, when I take the grip, it's still that alternating position, right? When I grip, it's inside the legs. Obviously, we can't do it outside the legs. So we've got to go inside, and typically what I'll recommend is if you were to draw a straight line from my shoulder down, this is about that line. I would go slightly in of that. Okay, a little bit tighter grip than that. From there, I'm still staying tight. I arch that back, lift the chest, and then it's a quick boom, pop through, back down. Okay? Again, we talked about this with the box squat. Wide will always transfer narrow. Okay? Narrow does not transfer wide. So let's talk about that again, just because it's such an important idea. If I train my sumo deadlift and I get better and better and better and better with this thing, numbers just keep going up. The standard deadlift is going to go up just in correlation as well, right? It's going to fly up there as well. But if I don't do sumos and just stick to standard deadlift, and then all of a sudden I decide, hey, I'm going to max out my sumo deadlift, it's probably going to be pretty sad, right? Because narrow, standard, will not transfer very well to wide. It's just a different animal as far as the hips and hamstrings are concerned. But that being said, I would recommend you guys hit the sumo deadlift as often as possible when you actually have a pulling day. Cool? So let me readjust the camera and we'll go from a profile so you can see what's going on from that aspect. And that's pretty much it, guys. Pretty straightforward. It's all in the positioning. So let me change this up and we'll talk a little bit more detail about that. All right? Hold on one second.